A very good morning to everybody who's following Kolkata Calling, who listens to this podcast, Hello Kolkata, every Sunday with us. Thank you for joining. Those of you who will be joining us live, and those of you who will probably be listening to this conversation later, we are available on Spotify and Amazon Music as well. But right now, we are going live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter or X. We have a very special guest with us today, and I'll be introducing her very, very shortly. Before that, I just again wanted to, as I do, just to keep ourselves grounded. We recently hit another milestone, which is 23K members on LinkedIn. And every time we hit a milestone, it just eggs us on to the next milestone. Um, and we know this wouldn't have been possible without the love and support that we receive from our community members. So a big thank you to each and every one of you. And special thanks to all those people who have supported us by bringing to our attention all the fantastic news that's happening in Kolkata, around Kolkata, and enabling us to showcase that from our page. So a big, big thank you to all of you. Also, big thanks to Moinak, who's been spearheading the page ever since he joined, and he's done some fantastic work. So thank you, Moinak, as well. Now, all that has happened in Kolkata in the past week, you will get a quick snapshot of that in the weekly newsletter that we publish every Sunday. It's going to talk about, the developments, the new offices, expansions, development projects that are happening, which have come to our attention. We are able to capture some of them. I'm sure we miss out on a lot. Please feel free to, bring them to our attention as well. So you'll get all of that in the newsletter today, later today evening. So I'm not going to go into that. What I just want to quickly talk about is we are adding a very special section in the newsletter. Apart from covering the week that was, we also have a section for jobs, which we call the Job Spotlight, and a section for talent, which we call Talent Spotlight, essentially to showcase to the recruiters who the available talent are in the Kolkata ecosystem, and then also show the jobs to our community members who are looking for opportunities in Kolkata, around Kolkata. Beyond these two sections, we've decided to add a new section, which is Startup Spotlight. And we know that there are these amazing startups in Kolkata and around Kolkata. And we often bring some of those founders and entrepreneurs onto our platform. You've seen those episodes with those guests. But there are so many, it's often difficult for us to give enough shout out and spotlight to all of them. So we are going to be doing this particular news section on the newsletter, where we're going to be featuring startups from Kolkata, and you should see the first version of that in our newsletter this week today. So keep your eye out open for the startups in Kolkata, and they are doing some fantastic work. And we'd love to hear more from you, what other things we can include in the newsletter as we continue to grow and evolve. So with that out of the way, let me get back to our special episode of Hello Kolkata podcast. Today, we are very excited to have Namrata Datta with us. And before I bring Namrata onto the main stage, let me quickly give you a quick overview of who she is. Namrata Datta is the Group Director and Head of Digital at Camellia Group, which is one of the largest business conglomerates in Eastern India. She is a second-generation business leader, and she's passionate about carrying the family legacy of Camellia Group and taking it to greater heights. At Camellia Group, she leads the digital transformation and growth for a diverse portfolio of businesses, which spans across sectors, including hospitality, education, entertainment, and real estate. She is also the managing director and founder of Adverwiz, a marketing consultancy firm, which she started. She has a strong academic background in digital marketing with a Master of Science degree from King's College London and a bachelor's degree in business administration from Middlesex University, UK. She is also an alumnus of Pratt Memorial School, Kolkata. And to talk a little bit about Camellia Group, though we'll hear from Namrata more about the group, Camellia Group was established in 1990 by Mr. N.R. Datta, and it has become one of the largest business conglomerates in Eastern India, catering to various sectors, as I spoke about. In the education sector, it has 5 knowledge hubs in West Bengal. In the hospitality business, it has two units, the Heritage Camellia Resort in Shantiniketan and Camellia Hotel and Resort in Puri, Orissa. It's also setting up a chain of multi-cuisine restaurants in West Bengal soon. On the real estate front, it has completed more than 5 lakh square feet construction for housing, business centers, shopping mall, and is continuing to grow. On the entertainment side, Camellia Group has produced several blockbuster movies within Tollywood in the past few years, such as Bibaho Diaries, Nitin Mashi, Bomkesh Hottamoncho, and we'll talk more about their latest addition to the portfolio, which is Oti Uttam with Namrata. So, with that little bit of introduction, let me now bring Namrata onto the stage. Namrata, welcome to Hello Kolkata podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Namrata, firstly for taking time out. I know you're very busy, but we really, really appreciate you taking time to join us for Hello Kolkata podcast, talking about yourself as well as the work that you're doing with Camellia, with Adverwiz. Um, Before I, talk more about the institutions and organizations that you're part of and the work that you're doing, typically with our guests, we like to understand a little bit about their own personal journey uh, as an individual. So, if you can give us a little bit of glimpse about your early days growing up in Calcutta, that would be great.
So I was born and brought up in Kolkata. I went to Pratt Memorial School, which is like a very renowned school in Calcutta. And I was born into a business family. So I was born right at the time when my dad was very, like, he was not a startup, but he was very new in the business. So I have grown up in an atmosphere where he was like working a lot. And, I have that. So we have this mindset where we do have a great work ethic because we were brought up in that atmosphere where a larger priority was given to work. So it was like growing up in this family was kind of like an institution in itself. There was a lot of
Hmm.
learning from my dad in that way. And
Yeah.
apart from that, I was not like like in school, or I was not that like exposed in the cultural atmosphere, as I was
Hmm.
mostly in London. So I do consider both of these cities my home. And
Hmm.
yeah.
And and I can understand that you mentioned that growing up in a business family. I believe that while you were growing up in parallel, Camellia Group was also growing because your father started the business in 1990. So you sort of grew up together. How was that like, knowing that this is the family business? As you grew a little older, you knew at some point of time you might have to also step into that, and more particularly, which we rarely get a chance to ask very frankly, what was it like growing up in a business family? There's a lot of privilege for sure, but what are the challenges that you faced? Maybe briefly you can touch upon that, and then we can proceed from there.
So obviously, coming from a business family, you do have a platform, and you do get the best of education, you get the best of facilities in the world. But
Yeah.
people also kind of see you as a connection more than a friend. So that is
Mm.
like a personal disadvantage that I faced on a lot of spheres in my life. Apart
Yeah.
from that, growing up, like any achievement that you accomplish, it will always be considered that someone helped you to get there. So
Mm.
that is one huge disadvantage that the second generation of business families face for sure. But I cannot
Mm.
deny that it's like a huge platform, it's a huge opportunity to do like so many things that many people would want to do with their lives. So there is like a it's like a balancing act there.
Yeah. And I think when we talk to guests who are first generation entrepreneurs, they have their own struggles, because sometimes they
Definitely.
do not have that background and that support system. But even with you, when you were growing up in a business family, you often articulated, and I was reading some of your blogs, that you wanted to step away from the big tree. And we'll get more into your own foray into your own marketing consulting firm later. But what was this psychology that influenced you to articulate, as well as obviously you articulate what you feel, that this big shadow that you live under, the big tree that you called, uh, stepping away from it, What was that like?
So yes, this is something that is always in the mind of, second generation business leaders. That is largely because it's a well-oiled machine. The business is already a well-oiled machine, and you are
Yeah.
kind of you want to be an asset to the business. It's not just my duty as a daughter, but like wherever I go or wherever any person goes, they want to give their value or their input. For that,
Yeah.
at that point in time in my life, I was much younger, and I wanted to kind of find myself and see that how can I be of value to Camellia. So that is
Hmm.
the perspective, because I largely wanted to find my niche, like how can I add more value to this large conglomerate that is already there. So that was the
Hmm.
mindset behind stepping out of the big tree. And there's always that thing that you are, no matter what you achieve, like you're always compared to your father. So it was
Hmm.
something that there's a saying, if you want to shine like the sun, you must first burn like the sun. So I needed
Hmm.
to step out of that shadow, and I needed to do the work, do my own learning, and then come
Hmm.
back stronger. So that was the mindset
Yeah.
behind that.
Yeah. And on that point, you moved out of Calcutta. You went to London to do your studies. What was it like transitioning from Calcutta to London, and which you call your second home? What was your life out there like?
Well, during my bachelor's, it was very simple because I just went for education, and
Yeah.
I did not at that time I did not really know like what my strengths were as
Hmm.
an professional or as an individual. But
Yeah.
for many people, they know it early on in their life. For me, it came much later in my late 20s. I used to be a
Yeah.
fashion blogger and a writer,
Hmm.
so I was always more inclined towards the creative side. But having
Hmm.
said that, business is probably the biggest creative platform anyone can have. So I did not
Hmm.
understand that at that point in time. And I was very focused on business administration. But my intrinsic motivation was always very creative. So
Hmm.
later on, when I found that about myself, at that point in time, digital marketing was just booming, like,
Yeah.
as an education or as a profession.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, it was during the pandemic that I decided to go for my master's.
Hmm.
So I was back in the day, I was just into the education sector. So all the colleges and schools were kind of, like they took a step back. So I had the time to really think that this is the time that we already were on a lockdown for 1 year. So what is one more year, focusing on myself going to do? Let me just go and do my master's. So that is the time when I was looking at universities, and King's College London was the only university in the Russell Group that was
Yeah.
offering a full digital marketing degree. At that time,
Yeah.
Oxford was not offering it, or any other Russell Group university was not offering it, and now they are. But at the time, King's College London was, so I chose
Hmm.
to do my master's in King's. And obviously it was very, very different, because this time I wanted to go from the perspective largely for learning, not just learning theoretically, but learning professional skills, like what it's like out there, working in the, as many people would say, real world. And it was very different, but it was also a journey of self discovery. And I think I
Hmm.
learned a lot about myself. And this is something that I'm not someone to say what people should do, but I feel like people who grow up in very protected environments, they should
Hmm.
sometimes step out, and then they should like see what they are capable of themselves,
Yeah.
without any help or without anything. Because then you grow this confidence, and you come back with a lot of learning that you can actually input into your business. So it was very difficult. Obviously, I had a 6 year break in education before my master's. So, first
Hmm.
of all, going back to university with Gen Z, that was
Yeah.
difficult. And then the people that I went to universities with, they were some of the top students from different countries in the world. So, and
Hmm.
plus, they are so much younger. They have been studying on like a constant row. Maybe they had a
Yeah.
professional break of 1 or 2 years. So that was very
Yeah.
difficult. But then I got into the flow of things, and I managed to get an internship, which I think maybe 1 or 2 students out of my batch got. And then that led into a job. And then, I grew in my career there. I I I got like three jobs, and all of them were a huge step up from the ones before. So this was a
Mm.
very good journey of self discovery.
And I think, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but once you get into internships and formal work, which is completely detached from your family business, completely far removed from your family business, you get that on your own merit, on your own volition. That's also a huge boost to one's confidence, I believe. What was your feeling during this time?
Yes, it definitely was a huge boost to my confidence, especially considering the economic situation that UK is in right now. And if you read about the statistics, only 7% of international students get a job.
Yeah.
There are people who get placed into companies from India to UK. That is a totally different ball game. And getting
Yeah.
a job on your own, because there are no placements. There's no such thing as a placement in UK universities. So once
Yeah.
you graduate, it's on your own. You have to go out. You have to do your own job hunting, and then getting a job. And I was doing my internship for 6 months while also doing my dissertation, while also being married. My husband was visiting, I was traveling with him. So it was like a very big balancing act. But yeah, I
Hmm.
set my priorities right. And that was a huge confidence boost, because education is kind of like an entrepreneurial um, adventure, that
Hmm.
if you can balance that, because the timings, everything is in your hands, how much you do, what you do with it,
Yeah.
especially UK education, the way they teach you, and the kind of projects we worked on, life projects and everything. So that was
Yeah.
the first time that I could think that, yeah, maybe I can create everything on my own. So that
Yeah.
was a huge confidence boost for me.
Yeah. And you said you always had a creative bent of mind, and then you took up this degree in digital marketing. Then you decided to come back and apply your learnings and experience to Camellia Group. What was that move like? Because you were already working in UK London. You could have chosen to stay back there. What prompted uh, the desire to come back and be part of the family group and contribute through your learnings and expertise?
It was, as one would think, it's a very probably an obvious choice, but for me, it was because my career had gone to the point where I was doing quite well, and it was a difficult choice. But at the end of the day, it's not just the fact that Camellia Group is my duty, and it's my father's business, and I just have to do it. But
Hmm.
internally also, if you really think about it, being a marketeer, being a creative person, the kind of opportunity that you get in a business, and
Hmm.
I always felt like it's better to be actually contributing to something, or contributing to the growth of a city, or like a business, rather than being like a small part of a big machine, like in an
Hmm.
international atmosphere. Even though that gives you instant gratification and like the constant boost from your bosses and everything, that feels
Yeah.
amazing. But to be able to give back to your family and create a good atmosphere and ecosystem for your community, that was always something that that was just not leaving my mind. So even if I'm getting like a lot of success and appreciation at work, but that
Hmm.
was something that was constantly bugging me. So yeah, I just had to do it for myself.
Okay, and wonderful that you came back. I think goes along with the theme of our page, and what we always advocate for is coming back to Kolkata, because there is a certain calling that all of us who've grown up in Calcutta feel to come back someday and contribute to the city's growth. I'll get into more about the Camellia Group with you in a moment, but before that, maybe a little bit of a tricky question for you. Between London and Kolkata, which one do you love more, and what are the similarities and differences that you have seen growing up in both these places?
There's like not even it's not even something to think about. I obviously love
Okay.
Kolkata more. There's not even a something that I have to think twice. I have grown up here, so it's
Mm.
like the emotional attachment to the city is huge. And as
Yeah.
they say, it's like Kolkata is called the city of joy, because
Mm.
even if you are working hard, even if you are working, like our calls don't end at 6 p.m. So,
Mm.
but we keep working, and especially in a business atmosphere. But there's a lot of comfort and joy, and kind of Bengalis are known for taking longer breaks. But in those breaks, also sometimes we have a creative breakthrough, so
Mm.
that only happens in this kind of atmosphere, I feel. So there's
Sure.
not even a moment of doubt before thinking that I prefer Kolkata more. But London is definitely a city that never leaves you. So the
Mm.
big difference between Kolkata and London would be, in Kolkata, I get everything. Everything is like ready for me. Everything is done, and I, have a lot of help. And in London, I had
Yeah.
to do everything on my own, be it house
Yeah.
chores, be it like job hunting, traveling, everything. So that was a huge difference. But at the same time, it was extremely liberating. Like
Yeah.
right now, if I open my lunchbox, I am surprised every day, because someday, like, something happens, something is not like absolutely to my preference or whatever. But in London, everything was, to my liking, because it was in my control. Like I knew where everything is in the house, I knew
Mm.
what I'm cooking. So that is like a different kind of liberation that you only find if you are completely living on your own. So that is the main difference. Apart from that, like, London is a city that never sleeps, and it's extremely safe. Not so safe, like, in terms of, there's a lot of robbery that goes on right now. But
Yeah.
apart from that, it's definitely, like, it was very safe to walk around at night, even though Kolkata is the safest city in India. But I
Yeah.
definitely, had that liberty, just from the point of view that I'm a lot more protected here, and I have a lot more responsibilities here. There, I was
Yeah.
in a job atmosphere, so I could just finish off at 5:30 and then go wherever I want. So
Yeah.
that's how it is different to me.
Mm. Yeah. And no, it's music to our ears that when you don't have to think twice between Calcutta and London. Uh, Namrata, moving into the family business side of things, you came back. What you said was finding your niche, and you then started work with the digital and the marketing side for Camellia Group. If you can take us through that journey, once you came back, what are the roles and responsibilities you took up for the group, and how did you start bringing a more, I would say, digital social friendly focus to the Camellia Group.
Okay, so this is something that not many people know or would expect out of a second generation person, like in
Hmm.
any industry. But while I was doing a job in the second year of working in London, I already kind of wanted to like just test the waters and see what it's like to um, start my own thing back in Calcutta. At the time,
Hmm.
it did not have a name, or it did not, it wasn't properly set up. But I did start building a team, and I had to any which way wake up very early in London, at
Yeah.
5 or 5:30, just to speak to my people back home.
Hmm.
So I would, after speaking to them, I would utilize that time to train my team. And after my work finished at 5:30, I would like maybe speak to my parents in the evening, and then I would again get back to training the team, working with them, giving them ideas. So that is how I was working with Calcutta Retro and some of the other brands within Camellia. So that
Yeah.
was a good way of testing out if entrepreneurship is really for me, and can I actually do so much work? Can I actually, but like many people would say, that if you actually love the work, it doesn't feel like a burden. So I
Yeah.
found that within myself, that I did test the waters, and I could do both, and I liked this much more, even though it was way more taxing than
Yeah.
doing something that was clearly the company I was in. It had everything set up. There was a different videographer
Yeah.
and everything, but getting things done on my own had a different joy. So
Hmm.
I really found pleasure in doing that. And then, so by the time I came back, my team was already trained for 8 months. When we started
Hmm.
working, when OT Uttam was just coming out, that was
Yeah.
1 month, 1 month before I came back. So 1 month after I came back. So the 1 month that I had last in London was the time that I was packing up my house and moving back. Even then,
Mm.
my house was a mess. I was sitting in Starbucks and giving the team the strategy how we can go about things, because I was
Yeah.
moving. I could not be as involved as I was in the past, but I gave
Mm.
them everything. And then, of course, I came back. So that was my way of setting up, kind of similar to how a person would be working and then starting up their business on the side. That is how my father got started. So
Mm.
he was an engineer, and then he used to come back at night and work on his business. So people would not expect that a second generation person would be working and also doing this on the side, but that is how I set up my team basically.
Yeah. And now that you're back, Camellia Group has a diverse portfolio of businesses across different sectors. What are the sectors you are primarily focusing on to start with, and what is your plan to do, to do marketing, digital marketing for the rest of the group as well?
So I am focused on the entire group.
Yeah,
In the digital landscape rather. I am heading the digital completely now, but
yeah.
I do have plans of getting more into administration and business development and strategy. So
Hmm.
now that I've set up the digital properly, I am delving more towards the admin of the entire group.
Yeah. And
That is my
given the diverse range of businesses, does your strategy change from, let's say, a hospitality to education to real estate? How do you navigate the different demands, different audience, different messaging, different content for the different businesses?
definitely, because the consumer in a different for a different product would definitely be different. So
Hmm.
you really have to tap into the problems that a consumer is facing in that
Hmm.
area, and
Hmm.
you have to give an aspect of your product that is problem solving in that way.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
marketing is largely about showing the perceived value of a product. So
Yeah.
in that way you tap into the consumer's mindset and see where they find value within a product, because we are flooded with so much communication in the world today. Like there's
Hmm.
WhatsApp messages coming in, there's reels, and everything is always has our attention. So your
Yeah.
messaging has to be absolutely brilliant to catch a consumer's eye. And
Hmm.
definitely in different industries it will change depending on what the needs of the consumer is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this was sort of reflected with the innovative campaigns that you did for Oti Uttam, which in itself was a very unique film, which we spoke about earlier, which brought back Mohanayak Uttam Kumar back on the screen after decades, and great work done by the entire team, Srijitda and everybody. But what was your approach towards the marketing of this film, which was in itself a very unique take, within the Bengali film industry?
So we tried to do just a basic few things differently. Because the film was shot during the pandemic.
Mm.
It was not a good situation for people to do very organized work, but we managed to
Yeah.
do a great film. However, we lost the behind the scenes of the film, which is a
Mm.
very big asset when it comes to promotion. So we decided to create little stories with the cast, which were later used as reels for promotion. You will also see a striking difference between the promotion of our last film and Oti Uttam. So this time the
Mm.
team was also a lot more, the production team itself was a lot more involved in the campaigns. People
Yeah.
were wearing the shirt that we got made from shirts, multiple shirts that we got made from Bongmade.
Yeah.
And the team participated in in-house content that was created by us. Um, so I think like when you show people behind the brand, that goes a long way. There is a term in marketing called anthropomorphization. So if you
Hmm.
show the people behind the brand, it really
Hmm.
brings the brand to life. People connect with the production house in a different way.
Yeah.
You'll also see that we have done some interviews with people who used to know Uttam Kumar back in the day, who have worked with him, and
Yeah.
the star cast, the people involved in the film. So
Yeah.
that is something we rarely see in Tollywood industry, like in interviews that are this detailed and that go into the minds of the cast and the creative crew. So those are a few things that we did differently, and that really, I think, brought more attention towards the film.
Yeah. No, and wonderful. And I think the film was a great success, and we saw some pictures coming out from the success party as well. May you may you and Camellia Group continue to make these innovative films, which
Thank you.
I would say not only shine light on the yesteryear's glory that Kolkata had, but also bringing it into the new digital age that we are stepping in. Which brings me to the new age of entrepreneurs. When did you decide to start your own marketing consulting firm apart from your role as head of digital with Camellia Group? When did this bug bite you?
So, my first job in London was in an in-house company, but the other two jobs that I did, they were in an agency, and I learned the most. I learned the most when I was working in an agency because I worked with so many different brands globally.
Yeah.
That I got to see firsthand. So when you're working, first I worked for a startup agency where I was basically doing everything. There
Hmm.
were just two employees and the entrepreneur. So like seeing them work so hard, and I basically knew the story of how this person started out. That was
Yeah.
really inspiring. And marketing is something that I love to do. So it only made sense to, like learn from the experts around the world and then apply it into my own startup. The second agency that I worked for, so both are very different atmospheres. Working in a startup and working in an agency that is working with some of the best global brands in the world.
Yeah.
So that got me more into an insight into good quality work. So I
Hmm.
had a lot of learning from both of my jobs, and that is how it really inspired me talking to the founders and um, actually talking to some founders from Kolkata as well that I networked with in London to come back and start this here.
Hmm. Yeah, and take us through a little bit about that journey of uh, founding your own marketing consulting firm, and what are your plans with that? What kind of work are you looking to do? What kind of brands, clients are you planning to service through that? Take us through that as well.
So the consulting firm is called Adverwiz. So the
Yeah,
meaning of the name is, I think, pretty obvious. Advertising wizard. That's how Adverwiz comes to be.
yeah,
Um, we are a full stack marketing agency, digital marketing agency, and we are prepared to provide any digital marketing service depending on the brand's demands. Um, right now, we're working largely with social media marketing, performance marketing, ads, SEO, and even some website integrations. But we are prepared to take on any client and give them the best services.
yeah. And I think, Namrata, you had mentioned that when you come as a second generation in a business family and you are planning to start something on your own, uh, as as is true for any aspect of life, you are looked at differently compared to, let's say, a first generation entrepreneur. Were there any challenges specific to that when you started? Would love to know that. And I'll have a follow up question, which is, being a woman, did that change, the way you were perceived, the way you were received when you started your own consulting firm?
I don't think I did receive a lot of this back in the day, and I still do
Mm.
today because people think that, oh, you got these opportunities because you are so and so's daughter.
Yeah,
But that wasn't relevant at all when I was in London because nobody gave me those opportunities because of those things. But that is
yeah,
how it is here. It is seen as in Calcutta. And this is something that I have accepted that will be a part of my journey whenever. So I have
mm,
just decided that by doing good work and by probably creating something, adding value to Camellia, I can get out of this mindset that people have.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part of the question, being a woman, people always, especially a married woman in a business family, people are very fast to write you off. That, oh,
Mm-hmm.
now you're married, you'll be more focused on your. Obviously, we are focused on our marriage, but my husband is he's the CEO of ANS Commerce, and he has also inspired me to focus on my work as much as he focuses on his work. So I
Mm.
think being around the right people also cultivates your mind towards focusing on business, building your own business.
Yeah. And I think what you had mentioned is that there is an unsaid or, perception that if you're the daughter of a business family, you seldom are expected to take on the reins and responsibilities of the family business. It typically goes on to the son. Was there any such expectation from your side or from your family side, or was it completely different?
So I do have an older brother, and we are taking on we do share a lot of the responsibilities. He heads the hospitality division entirely, and
Hmm.
it is no such thing that I am going to head the business or he is. We do plan to work together amicably in the future. Now, I don't know what will happen in the future, but our relationship is absolutely amazing. So even though people see, being two children of a business family, people will always try to pitch you against each other, but I don't think that works when you have a great relationship with your siblings.
Yeah, yeah. And coming to, specifically your foray into your own consulting firm, you have leveraged a lot of social media for that. You have your own personal brand on Instagram. How do you balance this, like between being, as you said, like the humanizing aspect of an individual behind a brand? So how do you make that distinction between, okay, here this is me, Namrata, as a person, and here this is me, founder of Adverwiz or head of digital at Camellia? When you're putting out content, how do you make that distinction?
Um, so me as a person is I'm a very easygoing person, and
Yeah,
the brand is something that it just talks about my work. So that is just about my work, and so that is a different personality. And me as a person is like a very normal, simple human being. So that is where the distinction naturally comes. And on Instagram, it's either it's a content that I find I like, or it's just a creative side of me that I put out there.
yeah,
And a lot of it is about the work that I'm doing. And me personally is just like any girl, like a simple girl. I would rather say a much simpler girl than most people.
mm,
So that distinction, I think, comes naturally. I actually met an entrepreneur, first generation entrepreneur, yesterday,
yeah,
who said that I did not expect that you will be this easygoing, or like because you seem very unapproachable online.
mm,
So
mm,
because I just do my thing and I turn that off. I just
yeah,
post about my work or put out a creative content, and then I just get to my own thing. So I think that's a
yeah.
natural distinction.
No, I think I can attest to this view as well because when we reached out to you via LinkedIn, saying that, hey, we would love to have you on as a guest for this podcast. Would you be interested? Your instant reply was yes, you would, love to be a part of it, and that was a surprise. No questions asked, no reservations, no concerns. You immediately said yes. We've heard of Kolkata Calling. Would love to be a part of it. So I think I attest to who said that yesterday, that yes, you are very approachable and obviously very easygoing when it came to us setting this up, and you've been extremely helpful and flexible with everything. So yeah, I mean, I think that's an individual specific trait, and irrespective of what background you come from, uh, I think that's something that you cultivate through your own education and your own experiences. So yeah, that's absolutely brilliant to see. I'll also ask you a little bit about your own personal creative pursuits. Like a lot of your creative energy is driven towards Camellia Group, to Adverwiz, but in your own free time, talking about things that are close to you, you took to writing, and you've been writing for a while. Uh, when you write only for yourself or for your readers of your blog, uh, what kind of content are you comfortable putting out there? Because you are, in a way, a public personality as well. So how do you do that, and how important is getting that out, expressing those things that are on your mind on your own blog?
So blogging is something that I started out with back in the day as a fashion blogger. It was
Hmm.
mostly thoughts and things that inspired me. I wanted to share it to inspire other people. The
Hmm.
piece about sisterhood, it was talking
Hmm.
about the queens of England and how they were pitted against each other. So that was like a creative expression, sharing my views on it and
Hmm.
sharing about how relatable it is in this day and age about women who are pitted against each other. Whereas if they come together, they are so much stronger. So this is mostly from the point of view to inspire others and just to share what's going on in my mind, reading about a certain topic. I don't do much of writing anymore, but I definitely
Hmm.
should. I haven't
Yeah.
done much of it in the past 3 years.
Yeah, no, I think I read through some of your blogs, and I definitely will endorse that you should write more. Uh, One thing, I mean, I did read the Sisterhood blog. I read one more, which was very interesting. I think which was called Millennial Girls Handbook for Marriage, or Millennial Girls Marriage Handbook, which is based primarily on your personal experience and how you navigated managing, and your education, your job, and your marriage. If you can talk a little about that as well.
So that is just my way of looking at a marriage, and I think it's also from the perspective of millennial girls, what they expect out of marriage. So
Hmm.
I think people just believe, what is like the, kind of like the narrative about marriage that you always have to, in order to be married and happily married, you always have to stick together. But that is not a realistic or a very healthy way to be in a marriage. You should rather you should rather grow parallelly and come together in celebrations. That is how I
Hmm.
look at it. So I think that is my way of looking at it, and a lot of millennial people agree to this. Sometimes the older generation kind of looks at it, and it's so different from their time that they
Yeah.
kind of feel that it's not the way to do things. But this is how we see it, and this is how we want to do it. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to resent your partner for holding you back from anything, or like
Hmm.
he also doesn't want me to become like unsuccessful in any way because of him. So that is the way I look at marriage, and that is, I think, most millennial girls view it from that perspective. So that was a piece just talking about that.
Yeah. And do you, since you've been back, and you have, two references to compare, between how life evolves with women after marriage in a city like London versus in a city like Kolkata, do you see uh, still some kind of reservations against, married women going out into the workforce here in India, here in Calcutta, compared to, let's say, what you see in London?
In London, I don't see any reservation at all.
Sure.
It's very normal, and many
Yeah.
times the husband is a stay-at-home husband, so it's very
Yeah.
normal in London. It's not even, I don't think people even think about it. Um, but at the same time, there are people, it really depends on one's personality. There are people who are very traditional and who want to
Yeah.
be a stay-at-home mom. So I see both sides in London, but people don't have any stigma or anything about a woman working. And in Kolkata also, in my atmosphere, I don't see any stigma because nobody thinks like that within both of my families. But I do see it in society, and I do see when I got married so early, people did say a lot of things like, "Oh, are you not concerned about your career?" Or oh, now you'll be way more like absent from here. You'll be very involved. I will be
Hmm.
involved, but there is a way of balancing. I will be involved, my husband will also be involved in both of his worlds. So I
Hmm.
do see a stigma in the society, but I don't see it within my inner circle. But definitely, it is present in my society because I have a team, and I do understand sometimes the bottlenecks that they face from people in and around them. So I definitely get it.
Yeah. And taking the Kolkata point forward with a more generalized, question. And this is a segment where we typically ask our guests, because they have a very strong Kolkata connection, just like you. Uh, how have you seen Kolkata's evolution? Because you studied in Pratt Memorial, then you went out to London for a few years, came back, again went on to pursue your masters, and now you're back again. How have you seen the evolution of Calcutta in these last 20, 25 years of your, I would say, teenage and adulthood?
So when I was growing up, there was a lot more. I would say there was a lot more political turmoil, which is not, as present as today. And we did not have so many, like the IT hub was pretty much non-existent, and now we have a huge
Hmm.
IT hub. I think around 3 lakh individuals work in those IT sectors. So that is a great asset in itself, in which Kolkata has evolved. And there's a lot more focus on culture, and really loving the things that Bengalis are good at. So people, I see a lot more self-love that people are bringing back towards Kolkata. So that is a very positive change that I'm seeing.
What would you say are the negatives that still, prick you in where you want things to improve? Because you've been exposed to do different kinds of cultures. Obviously, even subconsciously, you would compare. What are the things that you aren't so pleased about Calcutta, even today?
I think the only thing is that um, people don't want, like, there are some, not everyone, some people would not like other people to grow. I do see a little, like, crab mentality that people have of
Hmm.
dragging people down. So
Hmm.
that is not a good aspect, or people find it very risky to do a startup. That entrepreneurial mindset is growing in Calcutta, but
Hmm.
it could be nurtured more. So I
Hmm.
would say it's something that's not completely bad, but it definitely is something that can be nurtured more.
Yeah.
I would
And
like people to support each other more in that aspect.
yeah. And you had mentioned earlier, when we started this, that you know sometimes when you find people uh, or make connections, you are not very sure whether they are authentic or it's a connection for convenience. So now that you're back in Kolkata, you're rebuilding or building your existing network, new networks, getting exposed to the business ecosystem, the startup ecosystem. How do you navigate that space?
So I do see it a lot, especially now,
Mm,
because my the way I am seen now is very different from how I was seen 3 4 years back, because I have a stronger understanding of things, and I have a stronger academic background to back me up.
mm,
So I definitely do see people, who try to, like, I like do a bit of social climbing, but it's a
mm,
part of life, and I have kind of learned my way to navigate around it. We do have to network, we do have to keep working together with people, but it's, I think, in any industry it's just best to keep like a wall around your personal space, and then just keep work to work. So I do see it, I do understand it, but at the same time, it's a part of being in any business, in any corporate environment. It is everywhere. So it depends on one to learn how to navigate their way around these things.
yeah. What would be some strict no-nos in networking when you talk about things that would put you off?
I think gossiping about other people's lives, talking
Mm,
behind people's back, or giving away information that they should not be giving out, something
mm,
that a person shared to you in confidence. Those are
mm,
definitely, if you, like, if someone is doing that, that person is definitely not someone to be associated personally with. That is like the
Fair.
biggest no-no.
Yeah. With regards to the work that you're doing, and now that you said, right, you're back with more experience, more expertise, and you're contributing to the growth of Camellia as well as managing your own consulting firm. Uh, how are you planning to contribute to the ecosystem, let's say within the group, and even taking it outside the group so that your work makes an impact even outside the Camellia Group to Kolkata ecosystem in general? What are some of your thoughts, plans, goals?
Well, within Camellia, I especially because we are in the education industry, it's one of our core businesses. I would like to inculcate more of an entrepreneurship mindset within the students. So
Hmm.
that can only be changed through education. The way we were taught in UK was very different from how things are here. So enabling people to work more on life projects and just learning through application, that is
Hmm.
something that I would like to see more in our education institutes, and just enabling them to start something of their own,
Yeah.
trying to bring investors into the city. And I feel
Hmm.
like if sometimes people think that because one business is trying to do something to bring more investors in the city and it has a larger reach, me being
Yeah.
another business sector, business industry should not invest in that. I don't see it like that. I think that if all of the business houses harness this into one movement, then we can definitely get more word into Kolkata, tapping into the NRI sectors of Bengalis around the world and just
Hmm.
harnessing that energy back into Kolkata. I think that would be a good movement that all of the business houses should get into.
Yeah. And is there something that's already happening? Because I know there are multiple of these wonderful businesses that have grown out of Kolkata. They are flourishing. They have their second or third generation now leading the businesses. Is there a sort of, I don't know, consortium where these business families come together to take Kolkata forward? Is that something that's already happening?
I don't think this is already happening where the business families are coming together. I think people are doing it individually. It would be
Yeah.
great to see people coming together and doing it, because then the impact would be magnanimous. So that
Yeah.
is my point of view in saying that people should come together and do it, because right now people always get into a competitive spirit of who is doing better than whom to get more relevance and everything. So I feel like people should just harness all of this energy into one movement, and that will have a much larger impact.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and I was mentioning it in one of the past episodes that I do see that there are these great ecosystems that have grown up, whether these have been led by entrepreneurs themselves or venture capitalists, funds or incubators, or even individuals who are trying to build an ecosystem. So some of the ones that I have been exposed to is obviously through Make Doots, Make Calcutta Relevant Again, the
Mhm.
Bengal Business Council, then Arun Kumar Mukherjee of Chaigram. They've started the Bengal Entrepreneurs Ecosystem. Multiple of these, uh, I would say, ecosystems or mini ecosystems are growing, and it's extremely heartening to see. And I think I was discussing it with Rimjim of Heophone earlier in one of our episodes, that what needs to happen is to bring these ecosystems together, to coalesce, to
Exactly.
make a bigger force. And I think, uh, with folks like you, you can definitely play a role in bringing that kind of coalition in place. One question, Namrata, that I was thinking about when you were mentioning about you know how Kolkata is changing and evolving. Um, you've been exposed to the NRI perspective as well because you interact with folks in London as well. What is their perception of India in general? How is it changing, and Kolkata in particular, if they have some reference points to talk about?
It has changed wildly, because when I went for my bachelor's degree, that was 15 years ago when I went
Yeah.
first.
Hmm.
compared to when I went for my master's 2 years ago, like 3 years
Yeah.
ago. It has changed a lot because India has grown and it is now seen as a potential superpower of the world. So the perspective has drastically changed.
Hmm.
Now, I feel like NRIs are really inclined towards giving back towards their community, and they also, many people see themselves moving back home unless they
Yeah.
have very strong ties there. So
Yeah.
I do see NRIs' mindsets completely changing about India, Kolkata, and I would say that some people even want to come back, or maybe regret moving there. So I do see that they understand how much more comfortable we are. There's so much opportunity for growth. Yeah. So I see a drastic
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Great. Namrata, I know we are almost close to the hour mark. One, last question that we would love to hear from you and our viewers would love to hear from you is, and this is specific to Kolkata Calling, right? We started this community page 2 years ago. We've delved into a few formats, the newsletter, the regular posts. Now we're doing the podcast. Being, the digital marketing consultant that you are, what would your advice be for our page? And I know this is a little bit of a curveball, maybe because uh, we didn't discuss this, that I would ask you anything around giving us free gyan, but would love to know. You've seen the page, you know about it, and that's a great validation for us. But what would some of the top tips be for our page to grow, to be better? Would love to hear before we close our stream today.
I think creating constant content
Hmm.
about your page, about the guests that you get on your page on Instagram, creating you can create little stories around them and film
Hmm.
them in a great way. So I think the best way to show what you are doing is through consistent content, and then obviously like putting money behind that content. I
Yeah.
feel like content is king. So my first advice would be doing consistent content.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we've debated a bit about internally about Instagram because
Yeah,
uh, the kind of content that we put out is mostly, I would say, text
static.
oriented yeah, yeah, static content. To make it dynamic, we are a little bit unsure finding our footing there, and there are already so many pages and channels on Instagram talking about different aspects of Kolkata. Obviously we have our own identity in that sense. Would love to pick your brains at some date to figure out what Kolkata Calling can do, and coming on Instagram, how we can do that. We'll definitely reach out to you,
I
if your
think you
time
have a
permits.
great story. You have a great story backing up your brand because you invite people who have come back to Kolkata. So it's like
Sure.
Kolkata calling, the calling out to people who belong to Kolkata. So that is a great story. And I think you
Yeah.
should tap into story to create your content further.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll definitely do that, and we'll take your guidance for it as well, if you'll be so kind to do so. Uh, Namrata, thank you so much for taking time on a Sunday amidst your busy schedule to talk to us and be a part of this Hello Kolkata podcast. Before we close, any thoughts, comments, observations, and then we'll let you have the rest of the Sunday for your work and family.
Thank you for having me. It was great chatting with you. And I think it's a great initiative and a kind of like a call to action that you have here. It's beautiful to showcase stories that are inspiring, and that probably many people will watch this and also be inspired to come back to Kolkata. So you don't have you are creating a ripple effect through Kolkata calling that is going to have a huge impact. So I think it's amazing work you're doing.
Thank you so much. And that's all we want to do is make a little bit of a ripple here, and maybe that transforms into a wave somewhere. So, yeah, so we hope, touchwood, that happens very soon. And thank you, Namrata, so much once again for being so kind, so gracious, and so graceful,
Please.
and taking this Hello Kolkata podcast. Uh, we hope you have a great Sunday, and all the best for Camellia Group, for Adverwiz, and all the other things, wonderful things that you'll do in Kolkata ecosystem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.